We are here honoring 206,000 North Carolinians who served in Vietnam, and a fitting and wonderful day it is. We're glad you're with us. It is a beautiful ceremony. I'm overwhelmed already.
Audrey, you visited the wall, and I think that a lot of people will be able to understand perhaps this memorial better if they understand a little bit about the wall.
The wall, the National Vietnam Veterans Memorial, as it is known as the wall, my crew and I had a chance to visit it. We were there for 2 days getting to know it. And what we discovered is that the wall has helped heal some very deep wounds.
All the individual names on the wall just really brought it home to me that, you know, these were brothers and sons and fathers that died.
I think it's a very dignified memorial. People come here, and I think it gives you an opportunity to think about your loved ones and think about the people who were lost in this war.
And whether we agreed or disagreed, and whether it was right or whether it was wrong, they were people, and they really deserve any memorial, you know, that our country can give.
Personally, I feel it's a nice memorial. I think the addition of the statue has helped a lot, and I think it's brought a lot of attention to the cause.
Our nation's capital is a tourist haven full of monuments, reminders of our country's history and the people who made it great. There's plenty of activity continuing in the capital, and all of these sites are visited by thousands daily. But the most visited monument in our nation's capital is known as the Wall. This long, low, mirror-like granite tribute to our Vietnam casualties attracts several thousand every day. The wall is inscribed with 58,132 names of the men and women who either gave their lives or remain missing in Vietnam. After a great deal of controversy about the design of the memorial, some argued the wall was not a fitting reminder, the monument was dedicated in November of 1982. It was immediately accepted as a source of healing by the veterans and others. For best friends Larry Matthews and Ben Shapiro, both veterans, the wall represents the country.
It's the tapestry of this country. Yeah. It's right here on this wall. It's all these names, these different kinds of names.
Matthews served in Vietnam in 1964.
When the wall was first built, most of the people who came here were veterans. They were combat veterans, and they knew people whose names are on the wall. One veteran told me, a combat veteran, a guy who had seen a lot of combat in Vietnam, told me at this very wall that this wall was put up by the people who survived the war in memory of the people who didn't. But through the presence of the wall, it was now a chance for the people who didn't survive the war to help those who did.
Shapiro served in Vietnam in 1967 and 68.
And this wall truly represents the first benchmark in terms of the healing process and forcing this country to recognize the service as opposed to the policy implications of the war.
Jim Beard was a combat platoon sergeant. He knows a lot of the names on the wall.
And the monument was here for 2 years before I would ever come down here. I was afraid of it.
For him, the monument represents a chance to say goodbye to those who did not survive.
You know, I haven't had a chance to experience your death, to grieve for you, and that's what the wall allows. And you know, you just kind of you come and you do that, and it takes its form in many ways.
I remember watching a veteran, tears rolling down his face, and he was on the only knee he had left, and he slowly traced every letter in a name, and he cried. He let it out, and that's what this is all about, I think, letting it out. This is a place to come and heal, and I think the wounds of Vietnam, what's happened to this country during the Vietnam years, are healing right here.
The wall also represents a source of hope for family members.
Came by the wall one day, and there was a picture next to a name, and there was a note attached to the picture, and it was written by a very young girl, and the picture was that of a very young soldier, and the caption read, "This is my father. I've never known him. I know nothing about him. If there's anybody who comes here to visit and knows him, knows anything at all, please call me."
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's really all about. That's the cost of war.
Mementos like this are frequently left at the wall. The park rangers collect them periodically, and they're stored in a warehouse. James Cotter is one of the rangers.
Well, the National Park Service is responsible for the maintenance of the memorial, in addition to protecting the memorial. Now, the park rangers, along with the U.S. Park Police, are responsible for making sure that the memorial is here and that it is visited in an appropriate way.
The rangers and park volunteers assist visitors in finding names on the wall. They also do the rubbings so important to the loved ones.
In addition to being an interpretive site, it is a very emotional site here, and because it is rather new and we do have a lot of feelings still generated by the Vietnam War, it's a rather difficult site to work.
Cotter feels the life-size statue that was installed across from the wall in 1984 is a fitting addition and complements the granite monument. But it is still the wall that tugs at the heart so strongly, and it is the wall, veterans agree, has helped create the acceptance of the Vietnam vet.
I mean, the healing, I think, is in the talking. Things like this would never have happened 5, 6 years ago had it not been for that wall.
The wall still, it's a recognition of those who served. It's an eloquent legacy to those who should never be forgotten. And there's an American philosopher named George Santayana who once said that those who don't understand the past are doomed to repeat it. And what this wall ought to cry out for all time is that never again commit our national treasure, our youth, to die without clear purpose, without resolve, without national support, without decency and understanding.
We're back live now here at the dedication of the North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Memorial sculpture here on the Capitol grounds in Raleigh. Audrey, I think one of the things that was said there, whether you agree or disagree with the war, this is a fitting memorial, and it's not a memorial, either the one in Washington or the one here. It's not a memorial for war. It's a memorial dedicated to the veterans.
And one thing I need to add, not only will there be the wall and the statue of the three soldiers, but there are plans to erect yet another statue there in Washington, this one dedicated to the women who served in Vietnam. They're in the process of collecting money for that. It's an expensive endeavor, but it's one that I think is very worthwhile. Going to Washington and being there at the wall was a very emotional experience for me. It was the very first time I had a chance to do it. And we were there 2 days, as I said earlier. The first day was a rainy day, and the weather just sort of added to the ambiance. It was overwhelming, terrifically overpowering. And I saw there the same thing that I've seen here today, veterans who sort of stand off from everything and just as if they are standing guard, watching the proceedings, keeping watch over the wall. The same thing has occurred here today. There have been veterans under the trees here on the Capitol grounds, just sort of standing back, keeping their distance, but still trying to be a part of everything.
There are those that you see that are in groups, and yet every once in a while they sort of break away from that group, either in conversation or physically, and they move away to that sort of quiet period, that period of being alone that everyone needs. And I think particularly these veterans being recognized here after, as we say, a long time. But I think it's been a long time coming, and it's well deserved.
The three veterans I talked with all spoke of the hatred that they encountered when they returned. One of the gentlemen was in college, and he said that he was the only veteran on, it was a small college campus, and that for a while he couldn't even talk about it. No, it wasn't discussed in the classroom. When anyone discovered that he was a Vietnam veteran, he could just feel the hatred. But he recognizes that it's changed, and all three of them said that they really believe that the wall is the thing that made the difference.
All right, we're going to go to the podium now. Steve Asai, who is a member of the North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Committee, is giving the introductory remarks, and he will later introduce Governor Martin.
Carolina Historical Commission. That commission was the body that we went before for the approval of the sculpture, and we also worked with them to secure this small plot of land on this historic square. Dr. Price joins us today. The chairman of the commission, Danny Moody, has had an illness in his family and regrets that he cannot join us today. Mr. Harry Gadden of that commission, Mrs. Frank Daniels, Bill Powell, and Dr. H.G. Jones have also assisted along the way. They are all members of the Historical Commission. Sam Townsend is a member of the Department of Cultural Resources. Sam is the Capitol Administrator. You might say he's the mayor of Capitol Square. And Sam's office overlooks this site. And I'd like at this time to call on Sam for an announcement.
Thank you, Steve. The North Carolina Vietnam's Veterans Memorial is now hallowed ground, not because of the beautiful and expressive bronze statuary to be unveiled, not because of the stone marker to be unveiled, not because of any words spoken here today, nor by the patriotic music, nor by our wonderful flags, but rather because of the service and the sacrifices of the veterans we honor, and by the spirit of gratitude and love flowing from all of our hearts today to them and to their loved ones. This spirit which binds us together today must be kept alive. One way to sustain this spirit would be to have regular pilgrimages to this sacred memorial. Today, I, as your servant and your Capitol Administrator, propose that there be held here at the Capitol every Memorial Day weekend, a reunion of Vietnam veterans with appropriate memorial service. I pledge to you my help in planning and carrying out such services. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, and on behalf of all Vietnam veterans, we accept that invitation, and let's meet here again next Memorial Day, or even before then. Thank you, Sam, and members of the Department of Cultural Resources.